Alrighty, welcome to our public meeting on local water done well. I'm Mayor Nigel Bowen, and with me I've got Councillor Owen Jackson, and we've also got some technical staff, and we've got a few people in the audience as well. So what we're going to do tonight is just whip through a brief presentation which you'll be able to see on screen, and I'll talk to that, and then we'll have the opportunity for any questions from the audience and also from online as well. So what I'll do is just sort of talk briefly around the background for those that aren't aware of where this started. And so it started some years ago under the previous government around Three Waters reform effectively. And so at the time they were looking, the previous government were looking to do quite large water items for our region. Initially it was going to be one across all of South Island, and then the second iteration meant that it was going to be either Canterbury, possibly West Coast, I think, in that mix as well. Our concerns and our pushback on those models was largely around local accountability back through democracy. We were concerned that the money that was generated in your rates and water charges wouldn't necessarily come back to the Timaru district to be invested back into the key infrastructure that we needed. And we believe that over the years, governance and our water teams have done, a reasonably good job to keep that water infrastructure, at a high level, and we didn't believe that we would have necessarily been a priority under a large regional entity. So we did fight quite hard against that model, and we were part of a group called Communities for Local Democracy across the country, about 31 councils. Effectively, we worked together. We came up with a model which was council-controlled organisations, effectively, so councils working close together across boundaries. So as an example, South Canterbury, and working together to provide that water infrastructure for you. And so we're very lucky in that the current government picked up that model, and that's what they're running with, and so that's what we've got today, and so that's what effectively we're sort of consulting on. So I'll just take you through a brief presentation. So this is going to be one of the biggest decisions that we make this year, probably in the term of council. I know it's not as exciting as a Theatre Royal or a stadium or, penguins and dogs on the beach. However, it is important. It's one of those things that we take for granted. The way I describe council services to, young people, I say, look, you get up in the morning, you normally go to the toilet, you have a drink of water, you have a shower, you get to the front gate, you're walking on the footpath, you're driving or taking a my way or using the road to get to school. By that point in time, you've used many and multiple council services, but they are services that we just take for granted and expect, the water to flow out of the tap. So what this consultation is about the future of who manages and looks after our water effectively. Who's going to develop our water, wastewater and stormwater services into the future. So no matter what, local communities still get to own those assets, whether we're in a similar model to that we are now, or one of the other models that we're presenting, such as a council-controlled organisation or a council-controlled organisation across multiple councils. The assets are still owned by the community, and that's something we fought very hard for. So the three options that we're looking at, one is keeping water services in-house and overseen by our council. So that's not the status quo. So what's different to that is it's the same water team, same governance structure that has always been looking after your water. The difference is that you've got regulation over top of that. And this is what all councils and all governments have welcomed as far as being put in place. Previously, Ministry of Health regulated water. And to be fair, they didn't probably do the best job. Now we have an organisation called Te Mara Arawai, and they are looking after water regulation for the country, and they are driving the standards. So they're driving a lot of the cost, into water, but it means that consumers can be confident that they're getting the best water delivered to their house and through their tap. So that's the first option. So staying in-house is not quite the same because we still have costs that come with the regulation. So there's the water regulation, and the other part of the regulation that's coming, which will be across all these models, is regulation from the Commerce Commission. So the best way to describe Commerce Commission regulation, or what we call economic regulation, is what sits in behind lines companies. So Alpine Energy, we know that quite well in the district in Greater South Canterbury. Their lines prices are set through a model under the Commerce Commission. So it means that they have to invest back into the capital infrastructure, back into your water pipes, or in their case, into the lines that carry the power, but in our case, into the water pipes. And so that's invested at a level that means that infrastructure is going to be fit and proper into the future. So our second option, so that's across all of those, whether the Te Mata Arawai regulation or water regulation, and also the Commerce Commission economic regulation. So we've got the in-house model. The second one is setting up our own separate water entity. So what we would do then, if it was just us by ourselves, we'd put a professional board over top of the water entity, and it would be managed by a council-controlled organisation. There's still a lot of positives in this model, and we believe it still would be cheaper for the consumer into the future. What's good about this model is it means that some councils may not be ready to work with other councils at the moment, but it means that you could easily have other councils join up into the future and work together. Our preferred option is joining with neighbouring councils to set up a new water services regulation, so organisation, sorry. And so our preferred model is to work with our neighbours, Mackenzie, Waimate, Mackenzie, in Waitaki, ideally, and we've done a lot of work scoping out the affordability of those models. Just really simply, keeping water services in-house and overseen by councils. So these are estimates, but there's a lot of robust modelling that's gone in behind these to understand what they would look like over the next X amount of years. So in-house model, currently we're looking around $1,500 roughly, so that's across the three services. So you're talking both potable water, so your tap water, your wastewater, taking the waste away, and also your stormwater services, so those three waters. The modelling out to 2034 shows that that's estimated to be around $1,900, so that's going to be an increase of $400 over that 10-year period.
Sorry to interrupt, but one of the questions that I've been asked quite a bit has been $1,900. Gee, our water hasn't gone up much in 10 years, but of course that is in today's money, yeah?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%. That's a really good point. So we could continue to manage our water delivery in-house and on our own, and this is what those costs would look like effectively. So we'll move forward now. Now setting up our own water service entity, the modelling on the numbers, and I think that's what a lot of people go to, because as a consumer, whether it be power or any of those things, we're interested in the cost. So $1,500 in today's term in 2025, $1,860 in 2034. So there's still efficiencies in bringing that model forward, and that effectively would be our backup or second preferred model from council. But the model that we are presenting as our preferred model is, here we go, joining with neighbouring councils to set up a new water entity. So if you go straight to the costs again, we have estimated costs now, $1,500, and the modelling takes us through to $1,670. So quite a significant saving when we're working together. So this organisation would handle water services across all councils and take on each council's water-related assets and debt. Now, how we protect our ownership stake in these is that the difference between the model, I think, is probably the easiest way to describe it, that the previous government was presenting, was that it was very much top-down. We were told how the model was going to work. When it's bottom-up and councils effectively are designing what it looks like, it means we're building the constitution, we're building the shareholders' agreement, we're keeping importance in place around those things that matter to us. So a big priority for Timaru urban water is, and most people don't understand this, but about 50% of our water is used for industry out at Washdyke. So it's the, DB, McCain, it was the Smithfield plant. There's about 11 big water users. So 50% of our water went to those businesses out at Washdyke, and really, really important that economic activity is realised and supported through this. Sorry, I'll just take a wee sip of what is
Lovely.
Hopefully
Elixir of life.
New Zealand's best water. We'll find out on Friday morning. I hope we're in the running. Oh, that's good. So what it would look like is we still have the opportunity to influence the things that matter to us. We do that through shareholders' agreement. We do that through a statement of intent. So we influence the company that is providing the water services for us. So as I described before, a really important one is for economic activity in Washdyke. We want Washdyke to grow, we want to be able to attract new businesses. We still want to have some influence over a water company to make sure that the water that's being delivered to those companies, no different to ratepayers' houses as well. We want to make sure that water is of the best quality and those assets in your streets running out to Washdyke are invested at a really top level. And that's the benefit of putting it into a council-controlled organisation, which means you can get a professional board of directors with the right skills to govern over that entity. And no disrespect to us, but I'm not an engineer. I don't think you are. No, not to say that engineers are everyone that you need around a board table, but it's about having the right people to look after our services. And we still do have influence through statement of intent and other avenues. So we're designing the model that is going to work best for our community for the next 30 plus years, which is the big difference to what central government were driving under the previous model. So, where are we?
I don't want to steal your thunder, but
No,
I
you're
just
right.
want to ask you a question, because I think it's a question that most people are asking too. And that is, I think, probably, certainly from my own perspective, from the research that I've done, is that the ideal model will have been if we had Ashburton, Waitaki, Mackenzie, Waimati and the Timaru district, because we're all in the same sort of zone, aren't we?
Yeah.
With the rivers, etc. So why hasn't that come to fruition? And I mean, I know some of these councils are still in consultation, as we are. There's only so much you can say. But why hasn't that happened, do you think?
Yeah, look, it's a good question, and I think every district is their own democracy. In a perfect world, I think the model that would best work for South Canterbury would have been Ashburton through to Waitaki, those 5 councils working together. You end up having, I think, what are we, so 3 councils, 63, probably another 25 with, probably 120,000, so it's probably the right amount of people to get the efficiencies. Look, different councils are at different stages as far as their thinking, and I'm still of the view that some of these councils might come together over time. What all councils have to do by September is provide a water services delivery plan. That will be audited by DIA, and I believe some will be found wanting, and so DIA will quickly steer some of these councils. Not to say that any of those councils mentioned will be found wanting, because I think, overall this council is doing really, really good work, but I think the DIA over time will push in that direction. So I think, we're making a decision today, if we go down this track, not making a decision today, it wouldn't be bad, OJ, just the two of us. I don't think that's democracy in action. But we're making a decision, or we're consulting at the moment, and we're hoping to make a decision which is going to future-proof us. But I think over the next 10 years, you're going to see some consolidations of these water companies. And what's good, I believe, is that we're in early. So you're setting your own pathway. You're constructing that something with the importance what's important to the residents of Timaru, and I've articulated around Wash Dyke industrial and economic growth, but also great water for the top district in the country. If you're in late to the party, I think you're going to have less influence over what that looks like. So I think it's worth being in early. I hope that sort of
Yeah, no, look, you hit on a really good point there, and that is that the government has come to us and said, here's what we would like you to do. We're not demanding that you do it, but we're putting you on a path.
That's it.
So if you don't go down that path, what might be the likely outcome?
Yeah, well, that's it. And I think what you're going to find over time is through the regulators that I've talked about, definitely the water regulator around health and those sort of things. You're going to have to meet those criteria. You're not going to be able to fail on that. But then quickly to follow will be the economic regulation. So at the moment, just as an example, our council is investing at a level that the average pipe life in our streets is coming down. That's a positive. You want that to happen. If the average life of your pipe is going up and it's got an average age of, say, 80 years, I think probably the water economic regulator is probably going to be looking at that and saying, hey, you're not doing what you need to, and you're not investing enough. And so that economic regulator is going to help set price. So if a council is not investing enough into water, and this is that we've seen in probably Wellington's a great example. They've invested for whatever reason into earthquake strengthening libraries, all these sort of things. They haven't been spending the money into water. Well, moving forward, they're going to have to spend money on water. So unfortunately, they're going to be probably in a position where they've got high rates, which is just on their nice to haves or their community facilities, and then they're going to have increased water costs on the water infrastructure as well. So it's going to be a complicated one. So what you're going to have if councils aren't investing at the appropriate level, economic regulator is going to come in and set your price. So you're not going to have any control on that. So I think that's what's quite different too is, we always argue, we're doing it at the moment, not argue, having a polite conversation, with our communities on rates. And so you're going to move all this water infrastructure, which is really important, and you're not going to have that political conversation quite the same on that rate increase, because it's going to be taken over, it's going to be dealt with over here where it should be, because we need to invest at the appropriate level to get the good infrastructure for our communities, for growth and all that sort of stuff, and then you're going to be dealing with rates over here in a separate conversation. So I think those councils that are keeping it in-house are going to have complicated conversations with their communities, because they're going to still need to invest, significant money, and their rate increases will be a lot higher versus someone that's put their water into their infrastructure into a water entity and driving it that way. Yeah, and so and the other way to look at it is, so water infrastructure, same with any of that sort of infrastructure, needs significant investment. And I know older communities really struggle when we talk about debt loading on councils. And at the moment, our council can borrow up to 2.8 times our revenue. So if we've got $100 million of rate revenue, really simple terms, it means we can borrow up to $280 million. Recently, we've spent about $100 odd million on water. Some really good projects. We've got Te Moana, we've got Downlands water plant upgrades. We've got
Claremont Reservoir to come.
Yeah, Claremont to come. That is our single biggest project over the next 3 years, around $36 million. Really, really important stuff. Interesting enough, we don't have those community debates about, something like that. Pariora pipeline we've replaced, about 25 odd million, just a game changer, really important infrastructure. The other one I look at, and the technical team would describe it differently probably, but I'm trying to sell our community, we've got a secondary pipeline out to Wash Dyke. And that's about, you've got two pipelines, it's around, adding capacity, but, to me, it's about that resiliency for our economic activity. And so that, to me, is an investment into our economy to make sure that those businesses out there can, employ our people into the future. So, that's really important. So I was talking about the debt loading, 100 million, 2.8 times, so 280 million. Within these new council-controlled organisations, you can borrow up to 5 times revenue. So the way I'd describe that is, so let's use 100 million again, so it means you can borrow up to 500 million. Bearing in mind, we've just invested up to 100 odd million, so you do need significant investment. I think our loading is about 3.4 times, technically, we're at 3.4 times revenue for that debt loading at the moment. So if you bring that back over to council, it's disproportionate. So we're investing more into infrastructure. We've got more water infrastructure debt than we do, community facilities, roading, and some of those other things, some of the other debt. So the way I describe it, and this is where you use debt to get a cheaper consumer outcome. So if an organisation can borrow at 5 times, and I use the example of a house, so you're wanting to pay your house off, you get a mortgage of 500,000, say, if you want to pay it off in 10 years, which you could do, it's going to be considerably expensive. It's going to be quite hard, your payment's going to be quite high. If you pay it off in 20 years, it's going to be a little bit less hard on the old pocket, but still a challenge. You can pay it off over 30 years if you so wish, and that's what water companies will be able to do with that 5 times revenue effectively. They'll be able to use the debt to keep the consumer price lower over a period of time. And I know it's hard for some people to get their head around that, but actually what are we concerned about as consumers? Most of the time, when we pay a power bill, we're just concerned about the power bill. We don't actually ask ourselves how much debt does Alpine Energy have, or how much debt does Meridian have. We just care that they can deliver the price, and that's what those debt instruments do. It allows you to deliver quality infrastructure at a price point. This is really important stuff because we all know that the country as a whole has a infrastructure deficit. These water-controlled organisations is one of the key opportunities to be able to deal with that deficit. It means you can borrow more. Again, some people have challenges with that debt, but it is positive because it means no one. We're not just paying for it today. We're paying for it over a
future
longer,
generations are paying for it.
100% longer period of time. So on the table, we've just got a bit of a cost compared. And we did do a lot of work, a lot of modelling on this, and council has to, under legislation, have a preferred model. This is one of the main reasons why we got to a preferred model. Not the only reason, but one of them is because it is a lot cheaper for the consumer. Because consumers ultimately and ratepayers, want an affordable product. There has been a question around, because we worked with 3 and 4 councils, so Waitaki included, but predominantly we worked with Mackenzie and Waimeri around our water modelling. And Waimeri has presented some different figures, and so the question has been put out, why were those numbers different? And realistically, it is just the way they've portrayed them. So it's no disrespect to them, because what they've done where we haven't is they've pulled out their urban and their rural, whereas previously all the 3 councils were using averages across, and they've said, well, our urban is cheaper and our rural is higher. But if you look to the actual averages down the bottom, the modelling comes out as option 3, which is that working together with 3 councils again is the cheapest way. So they've just used a different methodology, and there again, that's up to them to do so. But we're confident that our numbers are correct and we're presenting as we should. So I guess almost to a close before we can take any questions. Why do we prefer option 3? So it is the most affordable. That's one of the key ones. Better access to long-term funding. So that's that 500% debt that you can get into the water council-controlled organisation, the water entity, versus 2.8 times. So 5 times in the water entity, 2.8 times in a council. Professional governance. So I talked about we would all the councils, as the shareholder councils, would jointly appoint that board. So no one would have any more say. So if it was Mackenzie and us and Waimate as an example, we would all appoint that board together, which is really important. And then the key one at the bottom, and you know, this is the one that we were really passionate about, and it really meant a lot to us, was you know, council community input preserved. So we've still got the ability, as I said, to influence, and then the other one is that economies of scale for overhead. So haven't talked about that in great detail, but you know, if you look across councils at the moment, we've got duplication of roles. Some of that stuff would be working together. It's not to say that you're going to lose roles in specific councils. It just means you've got more flexibility. I mean, if we have someone that wants to come to South Canterbury to work in water, you know, hey, they could technically choose to live anywhere, you know, from Mount Cook, you know, through to Waimate Gorge sort of scenario. It's not a bad option.
Does that mean the biggest council will have the most say? How does that work?
No, not at all. I think, and that's a bit of a misnomer, I think, and that's probably a big concern. It's probably for the smaller councils as well, but equally so for us. You know, as a big council, we still want to be able to influence, you know, the things that matter to us. And again, I keep going back to the economics of Washtec, but that's so important. But we'll deal with that through our shareholders' agreements from the get-go. We'll talk about what's important, and we'll have shareholder councils where we can have those conversations, you know, across all 2, 3 councils, whatever it ends up being. And so there's, you know, good opportunities still to influence. And because we've got a bottom-up model, not a top-down model, we're not being told what to do, we can build that in at the start. And I think it's just so important, yeah. So, I mean, that's probably, did I get through to the end? I did. Any questions? So what I will do, and I know I had a wee conversation previously, but I'll just talk briefly around fluoride and where fluoride sits within this conversation, because I know it will come out. So fluoride as a decision to put into water used to sit with councils. Around 2021, I think it moved to Ministry of Health. So the Director General of Health now makes those decisions. So Timaru District, across all our water supplies, none of those are fluoridated currently. If the Director General of Health were to give us the order to fluoridate,
we have no choice.
We have no choice. We would have to do that over a period of time. It will take some time because we need to put infrastructure in place to be able to fluoridate. So I think, give me a nod, technical team, probably a 3-year period to get all the water schemes up to date to be able to fluoridate the water supply. So the latest, and you know, we've got the question, why don't you push back, all those sort of things, and we've, you know, had these conversations, you know, many times. I think I'll point to the latest example. Whangarei District Council went to the High Court around fluoridating the water supply. Judge ruled that they had to fluoridate. They were ready to fluoridate, so they started fluoridating, and their water is fluoridated now. If they didn't comply, $200,000, $10,000 every day after that.
No ratepayer wants to pay for that.
No, quite expensive. So, you know, and I know there's lots of people out there that, you know, think we should take more of a stand, if you like. The cost of that, and we've had an example very recently, if you were to pay $10,000 every day for a year with that fine, you're looking at about 5% on rate, so it's about $3.8 million. So not a great use of money when you have no outcome. And there's no council across the country that has had any success. We currently don't fluoridate, and we haven't had a directive from the Director General of Health either. and there is significant information around all that process and all the questions that we can answer on fluoridation on the website as well. So it's really quite easy to get to. I think last time, a few weeks ago, I just, water fluoridation, Timaru sort of thing, and up at POP. So,
And we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, and we'll cross that bridge, and I'm sure, there'll be concern at the time. And look, one of the things, and I haven't talked about this with many people, but, I look at an example of, and the technical team will probably shake their heads and say it's too costly, but there might be the ability to put a tap in at a reservoir or a tap in a Geraldine, or some of those things. A little bit like you go to Speight's Brewery and you can get the water straight from the source. You can't argue with that. So look, there's things that we can do within our community, but actually the regulation will be that you have to fluoridate at that point in time, which we don't know when.
I know we have to take questions from the public, which is great, but I do have a question, one that's been asked of me quite a few times, and we do touch on it in the consultation. All figures are estimated, or estimates of residential water prices in 2034 and are not harmonised across districts. Now, a lot of people who don't have much of an insight into that have asked me about what does harmonised mean? Yeah, and I think this was one of the biggest, g'day, how are you? One of the biggest problems from day dot. Everyone assumed that water was going to be harmonised. It was around who was going to, different councils had delivered water to a greater or lesser degree. Everyone was worried about who was going to pay for their water infrastructure to get the upgrade. Everyone wanted to be in with a larger centre because you'd get benefit. Not always, because some of those larger centres need to do some upgrades as well. What all our modelling is on is no harmonisation. So these are around those efficiencies through using the debt in a constructive way. It's around those efficiencies. So again, harmonisation is something you can build into, or lack thereof, into the shareholders' agreement at the start. We're not of the belief there needs to be any harmonisation. What's really interesting across the councils that we've modelled on is that it's very consistent. Our water prices within Kui are fairly consistent, and water harmonisation wouldn't do a whole lot, and it's not something we're putting forward. But there is information, if you're interested in that, on the website as far as some of the detailed reports and stuff that we've looked at as well. Yeah. But we've done a bit of a presentation. We're happy to take any questions from the audience. I can give you a bit of an update as well, Pete. We've covered a wee bit of stuff, but if you've got any questions specifically, happy to answer them, or we'll see. Yeah, go for it. Thanks.
If you take on more debt,
yep.
what's still got to pay it back and you've got to pay the interest?
Yes.
What assumptions have you made about interest rates between, say, 2024?
Yeah. Yeah. So.
What happens if interest rates stop?
Yeah. So the.
Taking on more debt.
Yeah. So. That did you want to talk to that, Andrew? Yeah. Sorry, put on your.
My understanding from the modelling, and I didn't do the financial modelling myself, that was done by the experts in that front, is that they've taken the long-term average of what we've got to go through. So we do get a discounted interest rate compared to the retail quite significantly through on that. The other one to bear in mind is that debt in that capacity, when we look at our infrastructure strategy, is really funding around the next 30 to 40 years. By that point, the depreciation that's paying down the principal on that is starting to then build up the reserves for the next 50 years to go through on those renewals. So it really comes down to this intergenerational spread of the cost of the asset, because if we do it all short term, like we relatively are at the moment to go through, we're building an asset that's lasting for 100 plus years, and everyone in the next 10, 20 years is paying for it. In the last 80 years, they're not paying for it. They're not putting into that contribution through, but they're getting the benefit from it.
But how much of what ratepayers pay is going to be the interest on these loans?
That I could not tell you off the top of my head.
And, is the debt going to be taken on a guaranteed fixed interest rate for the whole
Well,
duration of the loan?
Yeah, so.
Or is it subject to
It come,
If there's-
Yeah, so no, so I'll describe how we take on debt at the moment. So council's debt sits at an average rate of around 3.64% currently. And so that will change over time. It'll go up and down, but over that 30-year period. So we've got a revenue and financing policy, financial policies that set over a 7-year period. So we're borrowing through local government funding agency, and they're buying on the international bond market. So we're getting international rates, and so the rates are cheaper effectively, than if we went and borrowed directly from the banks, and that is spread over time. There is no guarantee. The reality is all infrastructure is funded this way across the country. There is no exact guarantee, but because you're spreading that cost over a long period of time, there will be ups and downs in that, and we've had those recently. Our average cost of debt, maybe a couple of years ago, sorry, don't quote me because I don't have the figures in front of me, but would have risen to about sort of 5, maybe slightly higher than 5%, but it's come back down to 3.64%. And so the organisations such as councils will take financial instruments to help support and de-risk some of that debt as well. So those companies are actively doing some of that stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Still bothers me about taking on debt and saying,
Yeah, I think that's the understanding that people don't understand, but is partly the problem that has got us to now, because councils haven't taken on the debt, they haven't built on that infrastructure that they've needed to do. So a lot of our average life of infrastructure, even around here, there's some spikes in 1930s, 1950s. So your average life of infrastructure across the country is sort of at 80, 100-year lives. And then for a long period of time, we weren't investing back in replacing those assets, and it's all come to a point now, and we need to do something to replace that. It's not just in Timaru, South Canterbury, it's across the country. So you've got to use the tools that are there. I agree, it's a challenging getting the numbers. You're dealing with big numbers just for here. Across the country, it's absolute billions of dollars that needs to be invested. The thing is, if you don't invest, you end up like a Wellington that hasn't invested. You don't have an economic, industrial park that can drive business and help growth and all those sort of things. So I understand your thinking and your reservations and challenges, definitely.
one thing I'd also add is that there's, and it's shown from a lot of the international ones, is this invest to save. So by actually getting out in front of the capital spend with infrastructure going through, it actually starts to reduce our maintenance costs. So we're getting a lower operational cost by going through. So it's less leaks, less repairs going through. And it's one of the challenges as well.
Oh, hold on. We'll just wait till Andrew's finished. Yeah.
So it's one of those challenges that Wellington's faced is because they've been struggling to get in front of it. So they've been having to do reactive repairs constantly instead of replacing main because they have so much of it to go through.
And so what most people won't probably understand that, but council probably since 2016 has increased depreciation, I think, from 16 million. So we're now sitting at around 2 million. A lot of people think that's just a accounting term, that we're using that to save costs. But when councils consider it, they actually take that money and invest it back into infrastructure. So when you get Andrew talked about it, so when you get your depreciation to a level, and some of that depreciation will go to the new water entity, the depreciation that sits across water assets as well, that means at a point in time you've actually got the money in the pot to do that work. But at the moment, for the next, 30, that's probably being polite, 30 plus years, there's going to be that requirement, for debt. And so it's going to go up and then it will come back down over a period of time.
That reflects what happened in the back in the 20s, 30s. A lot of investment and a lot of debt was taken on at that time to build a lot of the schemes and do a lot of that investment, and then it was paid back down and through. It's just that then renewals, etc., in the 80s, 90s slowed right down.
Yeah, so if we go back, it was interesting through our last long-term plan, if you go back through those years, as Andrew said, around the 1930s, councils actually had debt at 5 times revenue. So it's happened before in our history, and it's unfortunately it's got to happen again. Peter, did you have a yeah?
You're sort of going with option 3. Is that all the councillors or council staff? How is it mixed?
As far as who's for it,
All united.
yeah, no, all governance and I think all staff are all on board with the model. Yeah,
You're all on the
same page. Yeah, what I can do is because we've just done a presentation. We've talked about all of that. I can have a conversation with you after and take you through some of that detail if you like, because we're online as well and people are listening, and I've just sort of given that presentation. So what I'll do is I'll have a talk to you after, and I can go through some of that stuff with you. Yeah.
Because it seems to be quite a divergence of opinion over the councils. That's coming through now.
Yeah, I agree.
Who is going to be the minister that makes the final call? What?
I don't think we'll necessarily get to that. I think it'll be councils will work together over a period of time. I don't think it's all going to be finished by September. I think over a period of time more councils will come together. So at the moment, what it's looking like across the country is 70% of councils are going to work together in council-controlled organisations where there's more than one council working together. There's only 2 councils that've got their own council-controlled organisation, and then there's around 28% that currently are going it alone. That may change over time when they submit water service delivery plans and they find that actually they're not in the position to do that work. Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing started with those deaths up in North Island with that contaminated well, and you could say it was overreaction from the last Labor government. They were a bit heavy-handed.
Yes.
And they're just going to change everything.
Yeah.
But when you look at it realistically, when you've got pipes in the ground, you can't just lay all new, put everything new in.
No, it's
the
good.
way you're doing it
Yeah.
now is okay. You just, over the years, you're just replacing pipes. You're just upgrading everything as you got the time and money to do it.
Yeah, I think.
I find it's actually working okay as it is. You don't need the governments are just making a football out of it, kicking it, trying to gain power through it.
Yeah, look.
There is a case for something as important as water to be taken out of the politicians' hands.
You've hit the nail on the head, and that is what we're trying to do. And so why councils have got to where we have, so the question, if you didn't hear on line, was around taking some of these infrastructure decisions away from governors. So that's how Wellington Water happened. So councils were still making the decisions of what money they gave to Wellington Water to invest, and so that was holding that up. If you look at our councils, not just here but across the country, for the last 20 or 30 years, they've been concerned about getting re-elected, and rates have been historically low. Sometimes in the early 2000s they've been below inflation. So councils haven't done the renewals of the infrastructure at the level they needed to keep the average life of pipe coming down or at a level that's acceptable. And so the argument of if you take those key decisions, not all decisions, but key decisions around the funding, the consumer cost to that, as has been done through this, and realistically it's moving anyway because it's moving through economic regulators will effectively set the price. So that's where the price is going to be set. So that's the key one. So it's moving away into independent governance, away from elected members. Look, there was a question online that I think is really important to address, and the question was, what are the loans of the, and I can address this from a point of view from both councils and council-controlled organisations, what are those loans secured against? And so for the last sort of few years, there's been the misunderstanding that these loans, council debt and these loans sitting within these companies would be secured against your houses. They can't do that. Councils can't do that. There's no legislation that allows you to do that because you're using that own security in your house to get a mortgage, potentially. So what councils borrow against is that they have a credit rating through Standard & Poor's or Moody's as an example, and they're securing that debt through the ability to pay for it. So councils currently can always put up rates. Infrastructure providers can always put up their consumer prices. You've never had consumers argue saying, hey, we want cheaper power, and the power's actually come down. It's never come down. So that's what those loans are secured against, the ability to fund them through a revenue mechanism. So I hope that answers that question on that.
Can I just...
Another thing too is, the council, you can get all your water infrastructure right up to scratch, and like in Timaru, where you've got back sections, and you've got a water pipe going all the way up to a house up the back, and you get the old galvanised iron pipe. I know the people across the road from us, they spend a small fortune doing up their kitchen and their bathroom, and they're up on a bank like that, and from the Toby, the galvanised pipe come up and through into the house, and it developed a leak halfway up the bank, and instead of putting a new pipe from the Toby right through to the house to match up with all the new pipes in with their upgrade, they just cut that piece out and put another piece of galvanised pipe in it. And I had to look at the old pipe, like say through like 3/4 of it's that size new, and it was down to about that size, but all rusted up inside.
So you're probably dealing with pipes on private property, I assume. So council's obligation is to bring the infrastructure to the property, to the street, and then it's the property responsibility to deal with the infrastructure after that. We've just got a few other questions online, so I'll just try and deal with one. There was a question about iwi. There's no requirement to do anything with iwi under law, so I hope that sort of covers that. A question about water meters. Will these be installed for residential properties? So currently, Timaru District, and we consulted on this in about 2016, I think overwhelmingly the community said meter the water. We've been a little bit slow in putting those in, and we've prioritised the Claremont water treatment plant currently, but we do have that in the budget to put in, and they will over time, whether it's with a council, I know our neighbouring councils are probably ahead of us on this, Waimeri and Mackenzie, but a water entity also would put water meters in over time. I use the example, and I've had this twice actually. I've come out the back of my house, and my house is old and it's got some flats next door, but I've had a flood through the back of the house, and I've gone to the neighbours, and there's some flats next door, and everyone's worked really well together, and we've eventually found out where the leak is and been able to fix it. But sometimes it's taken weeks, if not months, to be able to do that. Meanwhile, we're the network is losing a significant amount of water. So if you had a water meter on all those properties, it actually means that you would understand where the leak is at the moment. So a lot of our businesses and rural properties are already metered for water. I know of, from a business point of view, I've had about 15 years ago, I had the council come down and say, actually, you're using too much water. We had a look, and there was a few toilets running and a few other things. That was in regard to our waste coming through, but it was good to know that. And so water meters are a positive thing. And so when you put water meters in, the likes of Selwyn was an example. I talked to the mayor some time ago. They saved around 20% of their water, and it meant that you didn't need to sometimes build expensive infrastructure ahead of time. So it meant you can push some of that infrastructure investment back. So overall, water meters are really important, and I think you're probably going to see that come through legislation over time as well.
I know you've got some more questions coming through there, Your Worship, but just back to your original question, Peter, which was regarding the elected members and how they felt about the options, if you like. And, you know, we all saw the Martin Jenkins report. We worked through that. You know, we all understand it's a really important decision to make. And I don't want to speak on behalf of the other elected members, but I'm pretty sure it was unanimous, wasn't it?
Yes.
I've got one here.
No, that's all right.
Okay. Come
Yeah.
closer. It's okay.
No, that's right. I've got a heap of questions that have come through online, so we'll try and get to these. So there's a question, will local government eventually be rid of given layers of expenses and the perceived clumsiness? I think, a hard one to answer, but I think it's certainly something we're looking at, and you'll see in the media around the work that we're doing on our own council. I think by putting water into an entity, you're going to have the disciplines of providing just that services, that specific service. So to answer that, my answer to that would be yes. There's also a question which I believe is meant around iwi, which was around why wouldn't we be given a say. What I have said is that there's no requirement under legislation. Everyone has a say.
But we consult with them.
No, totally, and everyone has a say within this consultation. So there's, yeah, so everyone has that equal opportunity, if you like. And we're dealing, there again, we're dealing with water infrastructure. We're not dealing with environment. Environment technically is dealt with through regulation and compliance and other things, but it's not actually our role. We need to comply, if you like, to the environmental aspects of it. There was another question, how will the securitisation of the council debt affect our rates over the next 10 years? So I think tied to the question around security. Again, the security is with the price itself that is charged. So again, I think if we need to talk more, I can reach out directly, but I think I've probably covered that. There's another question on iwi question, I'd say from a board, maybe from a board composition point of view around iwi, there may still be a regulatory and regional something that needs to play out, but sorry, I can come back to that. I think that's dealt with all the questions online so far. Yep.
Like our reservoir, that would have been built with reinforced concrete, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Built about 1960.
Yep, that sounds about right. Yep, nodding from the technical team. So, yep, the reservoir was built about 1960. And so one of the major water projects that we're looking at over the next 3 years is upgrades to that. So that's around membrane filtration is one thing, and a whole lot of other aspects as well. Membrane filtration to me is one of the biggest projects that we need to do. We've done it across Downlands and Te Moana, and in real simple terms, because I'm a simple guy, the easiest way to explain it is if the Pareora, where we get most of our water, is brown, the turbidity is above 1, and it doesn't even have to be brown to be above 1, but it's dirty and it means we can't always take it. And so for security of water that we can deliver to our residents and to our commercial operators, membrane filtration means that we can take that dirty water and we can treat it, and then we can, it means we're really, really resilient, which is fantastic. Yeah, which is really, really important. So currently, I think we've covered most questions. Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, go for it. So could you put that mic on just so we can pick it up? Thanks.
What about the costs of setting up this organisation to cover the water for a number of councils?
Yeah.
I mean, you need a CEO, board of directors, you need staff, you need a new office, you need a whole swag of new computers. There's a massive capital cost in setting up a brand new organisation. Now, how much have you allowed for that in your costings?
Yeah, I think it's been almost
So
too much, isn't it?
It's-
I feel
oh,
it's
yeah,
been,
to be honest, there's probably too much in there. They've put in 9 million for the setup, which we should be able to do for a lot less than that. All of the other costs have been taken into account as well for looking at the market for all those staff that would be required, the difference, and that still gives us the cheaper option. So all of that's in there. There had been some comments from other externals that we've been underestimating the amount of efficiencies and we should be even getting better than that. But with what we've got in the peer reviews and going through, those
You're
numbers,
still going to be employing people in the individual councils unless you're going to
there will be,
transfer.
and this is part of that when you look up at the difference between the internal CCO, well, say a Timaru specific CCO versus the multi-council. Multi-council becomes a bit cheaper because there's shared resources across.
But there can also be duplication.
There's at the moment across those councils, there's actually not that much duplication of the function because the people that are out doing the work, they're still going to have to be there doing the work.
But then you can have another layer on top.
but you'll take away the duplication that sits there now across the current councils.
Councils.
So we have duplication times 3 across Mackenzie and Waimate as an example. That's where you'll get the efficiencies because you'll take that duplication away.
So you're saying that where you might have, or 3 councils might each have a certain person doing a particular task, you're just going to have one person trying to do the task for 3 councils and getting overloaded.
Yeah, no. So bearing in mind that you're talking about infrastructure over 63,000 people, you know, currently we've got 50,000 people. You're only adding, if it was those 3 districts, you're only adding 3 small districts. And so your water operators, the plant operators, they're not going to change. You still need plant operators. You still need wastewater plant operators. It's, some of that middle management, dare I say it, and some of those duplications that you won't require. Yeah.
There's also some efficiencies where at the moment there's not enough to justify a person to do the job, so it's contracted out, which is costing money, and that's contracted through, whereas now when you go together, you can justify a person because there's enough quantity of work for someone to work full-time on it.
In the past, we've had, for certain things, when you couldn't get them, we've had, the awful word consultant, but we've been legislated to provide, we've been through compliance, through ECAN and other things, we've had to provide plans within a certain time period to meet our resource consent requirements. Resource wasn't available, so we had to get consultant out of Auckland. So as you get slightly bigger, you're hoping that you can have those, positions filled locally, yeah.
So if you look at, say, auditing of financial accounts, at the moment, we've got to pay, all 3 of us have to pay an auditor to do it. We combine it together, you're only paying for one auditor.
There's another question online, and it's how will ratepayers have a say, and I think it's relative to how will they have a say or vote on the board, so that independent board that's elected, and so it would be the same in the fact that you've got that accountability back through local governance. So, at elections every 3 years, if water is something, or specifically something with water is important to you, you can lobby your elected member, and you can still do that through that 3-year period around, what sort of skill sets, whatever sits around that table. But I think with an independent board, what you've got to look at is they're going to have a skills matrix, and you're going to appoint the board to fit the required skills. So as an example, you might need someone with finance, you might need someone with engineering background and some other backgrounds, and so you fit those people together. So your ability to influence those appointees is no different than your ability to influence someone around the Alpine Energy Board. It is through your local Lions Trust, as an example, and that's how you say, or through your councils that are joint owners, etc. So that's your ability. Yeah. Anything else coming online? Stephen. So we do have, any more questions? And Pete, I can have a catch up after and discuss any further stuff with you. Anything else with you? Yeah.
Do you know the projected cost of that infrastructure that and then the ongoing annual cost?
Yeah, we should be offhand. I think the infrastructure cost is around 3 million. Is that correct? Oh, sorry, it's been a wee while since we've
It's
dealt with
about
this.
3 million across the district, across
Yeah.
all of the going through.
Yeah, and
every
then
scheme.
the ongoing operational cost would be. Sorry, it's been a few years since we talked about this.
It's probably in the,
Oh.
it's about 1% of the,
It seems cheap.
so it's around
Only-
100K.
About 100K. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So the question was around for those online. What was the cost of the fluoridation infrastructure? And across all our water supplies is around 3 million capital cost, and then the operating cost is around 100K. And we have done some work on that previously, but because it's not top of mind, it's not a priority at the moment for us. It's not something we've dealt with lately. Yeah. I'll put your mic on, Andrew, thanks.
To be honest, it would probably come down if it's mandated across the country. So at the moment, because it's one of those ones, it's a small market at the moment, it would become cheaper.
Cool. So we can deal with any other questions in the room after we've finished. I think we're finished with online. We've got another meeting. Geraldine, there's a drop-in session tomorrow night. I know Owen's there. I'm in Kaikoura. I won't be there. Oh, sorry. Another question, was it, Stephen? Yeah.
Yep, we've got one online. It's, do we know the financial impacts on council's remaining debt and debt limit if we move a CCO and the water company takes their debt? And will we be compliant to our revenue to debt limit ratio and have enough headroom for emergencies?
Yes. So do you know the numbers on that? So our debt limit, our headroom will improve because our debt loading will actually reduce within council because you're shifting the debt to the council-controlled organisation. So within the council itself, actually, you've got more headroom. Sorry, I'll put. Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I would need to double check and repost through, but it actually drops to about 1.4 to 1.5 for the remaining debt across council activity.
Yeah, but what we'll do, a really good question that's come online, so we'll get the exact answer for you and put that back in there so we can do that justice. Apologies for not knowing exactly, but a really good question.
Just before you finish,
yeah, of course.
Ask one more thing. So before you do finish up, and I think it's important for those people who are watching it at home or wherever, that they already know that our preferred option is to join with neighbouring councils. So just to sort of sum things up, why should we be going down that path? Why is that important to go down that path rather than the other options?
You've not been listening.
Yes, I have been. I'm doing this for the sake of those people who are at home listening right now.
No, that's a great question. For all the reasons that I've put up before. So probably to reiterate, I'm not sure if you can whack that back up. Oh, thank you. So most affordable in the long term. That's the key thing. So that projected 2034 number was 1900. I think comes down to the 16s. Which is important, so saving for consumers, and that's all types again, for potable water, for domestic and for industrial as well, access to long-term funding, the efficiencies of working together across councils, which we've sort of described, that independence governance that we've sort of just gone into that detail of. That preservation of input is still preserved, as I talked about. We've got the ability to build from the bottom up, so that's how we get all the protections for the Timaru district. That's how we cement our aspirations, if you like, So we build that in at the shareholders agreement so we can get commitment from that organisation that we'll have the investment that we need across our organisation and into the future. So, Timaru can, continue to punch and that economies of scales, across overheads and what have you, as we've sort of gone into detail. But there's a lot of detail in this. We've, some of us have been working on it for years. You've been a couple of years. I've been in, 5 or 6 years. Will be lots more technical questions. There's a lot of data on the website as well. If people want specific one-on-one conversations, just reach out. All my details and all the elected member details are on a line. If we can't answer the question, we'll be able to get someone that can answer the question. Yes, we do have a preferred model. It is not a done deal.
It's not set in stone.
No, it's not set in stone. We'd have to have really good reasons not to go with the preferred model because we want to deliver affordable product, and the feedback that I get from ratepayers all the time is around affordability. Well, this is the most affordable model. So, if that's one of the lead, reasons, if we can protect all those other things around having influence over water infrastructure, where it goes, when it goes, subdivision hit isn't something we've talked about, but, so we can have protection that we know if we're going to have subdivision that we're going to have that investment into water infrastructure put into in a meaningful time. We can do that through shareholders agreements, through statements of intent, all those sort of things. But we're really easily accessible. All our emails, cell phone numbers on the internet. We can connect you with the right technical people. There's still more water conversations to have. As I was saying, Geraldine, I know you and Gavin are out there tomorrow night. We'll post a link, and there's stuff on our line and also on our Facebook around the meetings next week, I think. Is it Wednesday, the West End Hall? I think, but my apologies. Tuesday, is it? Tuesday, we're at West End Hall. We're going to live stream that one as well. So, if there's people out there that you're talking to that would want to know more, tell them to come along in person. For the next few weeks, I'm really focused on this. I want to answer any questions. We want to inform you so you can give us your thinking. And I think the key thing, although we've got a preferred model, a lot of the feedback that's going to come through is around your reservations, and we need to be able to answer that. And it's around how do we protect the assets, that ratepayers in Timaru have paid for over many, many years, probably unfortunately haven't paid quite enough, but have paid a lot, and people have that ownership of those assets, and we want to protect property rights, and that's part of the model. This current government is really hot on property rights. That's part of the model that they've presented, is it protects those property rights. So all those things that you've got questions about, put them through, because that's what we're wanting to protect for you out there, and we've got the opportunity to do that because we're building it from the ground up. So, yeah, all your feedback is really valuable.
What about the key dates?
Yeah, key dates. Oh,
Put you right on the spot, didn't I?
maybe you could do some of the work. Where are the key dates?
We do have some key dates for to get the public feedback and obviously before things are set in stone too, don't we?
Yeah.
Yep.
So and we do slides up there now. So consultation closes next Friday, 6th of June. So there's lots of time. My diary's available, or I'll make it work next week if anyone wants to do one-on-one stuff. If you work during the day, you want to have a chat. As we said, the Tuesday evening is open. I'm available, all hours almost. We've got deliberations taking place later in
Next month.
June.
Yep.
Yeah, next month. And that'll be the opportunity. If you tick the box and you want to come and speak to us, we will give you a time to come and speak. So you've got that opportunity. Key date for us is the Water Service Delivery Plan needs to be submitted to DIA. DIA will audit that and say, hey, yes, you've got this right, or you need to make some changes here. We think it's deliverable, or we don't think it's deliverable. Right. So, those are some of the key things. They'll look, they're going to really audit that hard. So the team are doing a lot of work to make sure we've got that nailed, and that's important. And then our preferred model, if that's the decision that is made by council, will be implemented over some time. So it's 26 onwards. A stand-up date is likely to be around the 1st of July 2027, as an example. None of that's set in stone. It's still conversations that have got to be had with other prospective partners. Yeah, cool. So, we're just about to sign off. Thank you if you've joined us tonight. If we haven't answered something in full, we'll try and do so tomorrow. But as I said, if there's anything you want to know, just reach out and touch base with us. We're really keen for you to be fully informed. Cool, thank you.